Okay, I'll be giving lectures. I'll be giving lectures on the natural rights. Lectures on on natural right. Okay. Now, what are natural rights? The principle or the theory of natural rights came about between the 18th and the 17th century. It presented the modernist conception of natural law to mean natural rights. As a result of the increasing, or the let me say, the scientific and intellectual achievement of the 17th century, it led to encourage people to believe in natural law. The so-called the age of enlightenment led to increasing in human belief and the perfectibility in human affairs, which led to more comprehensive expression with respect to the principle of natural right. Some of the writers that surround the era of the natural rights are persons, or let me say, somebody like John Locke, who is arguable the most prominent writer or some of the philosophers or preachers of the natural rights. Now, other philosophies of the 18th century came about with philosophers such as we have Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we have Montesquieu, aka Baron de la Brede, aka Montesquieu. Then you talk of people like Voltaire. These guys brought up their principles with respect to the theory of natural rights. Now, let us take John Locke and examine his own principle. John Locke stated that man has certain inalienable rights. Rights which are inalienable, which cannot be delegated to somebody or to other persons. Now, such rights include the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to property. And he stated that man, upon entering into the civil society, pursuant to a social contract, had to surrender some of these rights to who? To the state, and the state in return is supposed to do what? To protect this right from man who has surrendered the right. So now, what is the logical inference with respect to the theory of natural right with John Locke? John Locke, in stating the theory of natural right, merely stated that man surrender to the state the right to protect the right and not the right itself to the state. And therefore, he went further to state that if the state or the states failing to protect this right might subsequently lead to what? To popular revolution. That was John Locke. Let us move further to Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine metaphorically and graphically presented that man was born free in rights and everything. And if the previous generation did not present a pattern or a way to be governed, the future generation has no right to provide a method to be governed. He clearly stated that man did not come to the world to have fewer rights than he had before, or man did not come to the world to be worse. So, what is the logical inference here? What Thomas Paine is actually trying to say is that the present generation have no right or the powers to form their own rights. Instead, man or the present generations that find themselves into the civil society are supposed to continue with the same rights upon which they, or let me say their forefathers, had already been performing. So these were the two philosophers who had adumbrated, elucidated, understand, and expounded on some of these principles of natural, of some of on the principle of natural right, which eventually came from natural law. Now, looking at looking at John Locke and Thomas Paine, they actually attacked politics and religion. Let me say politics, religious and political dogmatism, intolerance and censorship. theories actually helped people in the West during the 18th and the 19th century in that it led to popular revolution. The popular revolution. This could be seen, a good example of the popular revolution in this instance could be seen during the England's revolutions that was of 1688, which later on led to the Bill of Right. The Bill of Right, which was like trying to reduce royal absolutism, that was power, excessive powers, which was used by the states, that what we call excess of power. Good. Okay. Now he went further and stated that, or they went further and stated that man is not supposed, man who has entered into the world is not supposed to create his own right. But looking at the conclusion of it, it further led to the agitations of the waves revolution. And all in all, or in a nutshell, it's warranted for a change from powers of the king, which later on led to separation of power, which was adumbrated by Montesquieu. Montesquieu stated that absolute power corrupt absolutely. That is Baron de la Brede, Charles de Secondant, Baron de la Brede, aka Montesquieu, who stated that absolute power corrupt absolutely, and as such there should be separation of power. So it led, or the natural rights principles and their philosophers with their philosophies went to a greater extent to bring peace to England and to bring new conception and ideas. Now we are going to examine the attacks on the principle of natural rights. The first attack on the principle of natural right was witnessed with the arrival of the rights of man. That was the first attack, yes, on natural rights. Came or was witnessed as a result of the rights of man. Good. Now, this is because natural rights were conceived in absolute terms, and they were increasingly becoming to have conflict with one another. So as such, the natural right, experienced both political and philosophical attacks from left and right. In furtherance, we are going to look at the criticisms, or let me say the attacks on the first part. Now, the first attack, we had Edmund Burke and David Hume had to join with the liberal Jeremy Bentham in order to, in the strongest possible terms, to do what? To condemn, to criticize, or to attack the principle of natural rights. There, the former stated that, or they were afraid of public affirmation of the term natural right. They stated that if the public could affirm to the term natural right, there will be upheavals, there will be chaos, there will be social unrest in the society. So as a result, they wanted to condemn or to attack the principle of natural law. But according to Bentham, Bentham was more concerned. That is why in his declaration and proclamation, he later on let go the law of the natural right to be ratified or legislated upon. This was Bentham's view with respect to the French Revolution. The French Revolution, which brought a lot of chaos. So Bentham let go of the natural law. Burke, a believer of natural rights, he did not refuse or didn't deny the fact that the rights of man could be derived from natural law. But he went further to condemn the draft of the rights of man and citizens. For doing what? For bringing the monstrous fiction of human equality. That was their own principle. Now, moving further to the second criticisms, or let me say the attacks on natural rights, we are going to look specifically to Jeremy Bentham. They say Bentham, a utilitarian, was no less scornful in attacking the natural right. He stated, and I quote, right is a child of law. From law comes real right, and from fake law comes fake right. And Bentham stated that the natural rights, are imprescriptible. They are nonsense, and nonsense upon styles. According to Bentham feels that the laws, natural right from natural law, are imprescriptible. They are not backed up by anything. These laws are not backed up by anything. Let me say the parliament or any legislative or enactment of the parliament whatsoever. So Bentham states that natural rights are nonsense, and nonsense upon stilts. Now, David Hume supported Bentham by stating that natural rights are unreal metaphysical phenomena. And I think this is the argument on natural right. This was a course lectured in the University of Yaoundé, Toussoua, by Dr. Duga Ditanji and Dr. Jofo Marshall. And I was just trying to elucidate and give my own principle there. Thanks. Shout out to the boy Nzims Tino, aka Tino, the son of Bandims, one of Noni, favorable.